You win some, you lose some, and yes, it's only preseason, but there are still jobs on the line.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to talk about the lackluster performance at the Saddle Dome, but the victory just a little further north of the Saddle Dome from the other split squad game. And of course, we're going to chat about what's next for the Flames in terms of preseason moves, who needs to show what, and wrapping it up with a $10.5 million question. Is Jonathan Huberdeau playing hurt? Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And let's jump right into this, because what a disappointing performance from the home squad. I guess it was the veteran heavy lineup. And I don't even want to call it a performance, because with a performance, you're getting like a show. It was just a really lackluster preseason game. And ultimately, that's all it is. It's a preseason game, but it wasn't exactly the most encouraging, especially seeing that you're missing Jonathan Huberdeau, who missed the second day of camp due to maintenance. So what's going on there? Are we starting the season with a lingering injury? I'm trying not to think too much of it. It's still early on. But then you also are missing Igor Sharangovich, who had a few injuries last season and nothing major. At least, the team didn't require or put out anything that said that, this player's getting surgery or anything like that. So we have that to go on. But that's just something to keep an eye on, because number one, Jonathan Huberdeau is your $10.5 million player. And also, number two, if either of these two are out to start the season, that opens up a spot for someone to steal a job. And that is the exciting part of the preseason. Obviously you don't wish injuries on anyone, but when the time comes, when the call comes, you got to answer it. But let's talk about something positive, because at the end of the day, this is just preseason. This is about people getting their footing and getting established, building or rebuilding chemistry, picking up where you left off. But I thought that the Flames had a really good night at the faceoff dot. They had a 49% win percentage. They won 49% of the faceoffs. And that, to me, again, it's only preseason, I understand. But that's better. That's a step in the right direction, because I think we all know where the Flames struggled last year. And obviously scoring was one of them, but also winning faceoffs was, you were more likely to get in touch with the Pope than having the Flames win more than like 6 faceoffs a game, it felt like. But that's my biggest positive out of it, honestly. Yeah, you got shut out, but at least you won some faceoffs. So it was just a really lackluster effort. Devin Cooley had a really tough night. 3 goals allowed on 29 shots. Like, it's not ideal, especially when you're the one that's fighting for a job. But just a little bit north up in Edmonton, this squad showed great effort. This team showed up to play. They looked rejuvenated. They looked like they were ready. They looked like they were in mid-season form. And the 3 goals came from Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. Morgan Frost opened the scoring. Joel Farabee followed shortly after. And then couldn't believe it when I saw it, because I was like, Morgan Frost, okay, cool. And then it's like Joel Farabee, and I was like, oh, Frostby is alive and well. It's great to see. Joel Farabee had 3 goals in his 30 some odd games with the Flames last season, so we're on pace to beat that. So we're on track for a better season, which I'll take. It's truly the little things. It felt like that squad in particular, especially because Lomberg, he scored, but the goal got waved off. It was just a great confidence boost. It was one of those like morale lifting games, just to kind of get the feeling back into yourself and your routine as a hockey player. Because yeah, sure, you might be skating during the summer and playing in summer leagues, but you're not going full out. And even in preseason, most players aren't going full out. One thing that I was astonished by is that the Flames scored 3 goals on just 14 shots. Like, that is absurd to me, considering Edmonton had, I believe it was around 30. So their goaltending is obviously a little leaky, which, the Saddle Dome group can relate. But Prosvetov looked great. He definitely had a better night than Cooley. And I think that it's truly going to be a battle for the crease. I don't think it's going to be a runaway decision unless something happens. Like, I think it would have to be pretty dramatic. But coming up next, we're going to talk about what's next. What does Ryan Huska have to do to get all of his players on the same page and moving in the right direction? Coming up next here on Locked On Flames. Most people can't name their financial accounts or even what they are worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're like me and putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all the heavy lifting, and you can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. That's my favorite part. It is so important to know where your money's going, how you're spending it, and where you might be able to cut some costs, like maybe ordering takeout at work. Maybe just like once a month now instead of once a week. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That is 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Flames and making Locked On Flames part of your day. I could not be more excited to get this season started with you all. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube, because we're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every single day. Let's talk about the road ahead. And tomorrow, the Flames are taking on the Seattle Kraken, which, quite frankly, I think the Kraken are not. I think they might be slightly better than the Flames this year. I don't have the highest of expectations for either team, but I am curious if the Kraken kind of find a way to slip into wild card territory over the Flames. But good news is we still have 6 months ahead of us. We have a whole 82 regular season game schedule ahead of us. And it is far too early to predict and really stand on business with any of these takes. But Ryan Huska came in and had some compliments for some players that everyone has been particularly hard on this summer because of their performances last year. And that would be Miramonov and Jake Bean. he complimented them on their quickness and just moving the puck quicker, and praised Jake Bean for having a solid conditioning stint this offseason. So I am interested to see what he does with both of those defensemen. I think that it's bananas to me that he didn't try to trade Miramonov when he had the offers. And quite frankly, I think that Jake Bean is more of your third pairing, seventh defenseman, or AHL top pairing kind of guy. But ultimately, it's still a little too early to call the shots. I do think that because of Bean's connections to the Flames organization, it's less likely you see him waived. But that's just my opinion, and I'll stand on that. But I really need to see some strong goaltending. I mentioned before that I don't think that this is particularly leaning in the favor of Prosvetov or Cooley, because number one, it was one preseason appearance for both of them. Cooley played all 60 minutes, and it's tough for, I think, honestly, to come back for both of these players. But for Prosvetov, I'm shocked because he was playing in Russia, and I feel like, you're still facing like incredibly talented players and whatnot, but I feel like the pace is different, and the skill level and attentiveness is a little bit different. But it's great to see, and I fully expected an adjustment period, but again, 1 game sample size. I'm not saying it's this one over that one or what have you. I think that it is just really, it's up for grabs. And I don't think you could, if you asked Ryan Huska off the record right now who he thought would take the crease, I don't think he would have an answer. He'd say, there hasn't been enough for, like, I haven't seen enough. And I think that that's important to remember because it's preseason. It is not life or death. It is not a game 7. But there are a lot of reasons to be concerned heading into this season. And I get it. There's a lot of uncertainty, like I just mentioned, with your goaltending. You knew what you were getting with Dan Vladar, right? You knew that you were getting a decent backup, but he was really a sub 900 backup goaltender, which, bless him. I'm glad he got his extension or a deal, longer term deal in Philly, and I hope that goes really well for him. But you don't know what you're getting with Cooley or Prosvetov. I think that it's kind of intimidating considering what you have as your starter, and the pylons that play in front of him. And I don't know if Dustin Wolf can fully carry this team again the way that he did last year. And with Huberdeau being questionable, I would say you're looking at a little bit of offense question marks too, because he had 28 goals last season. Like, might as well be a 30-goal scorer. So if you take those 30 goals away and maybe, you disperse a few more across the lineup, you still need to make up for probably at least 15 to 20 or 10 to 15, I guess. But you have to figure this out. They're never going to be able to move that Huberdeau contract. They're not putting him on LTIR or buying him out, anything like that. That's not going to happen. So you don't know what you're getting. There's only so many goals that this team can score, and there's only so many goals they can save. It's not exactly the most reassuring feeling when, again, your backup goaltender is not here, signed elsewhere, and the 2 backup options that you have you aren't that familiar with at the NHL level. Do we really think that Kadri's going to score 34, 35 goals again this year? It would be nice, but I don't think so. What happens if, let's say, he gets, knock on wood, he gets hurt for a little bit? Are you moving Morgan Frost up to first line center? What are we doing? And again, this is something to think about as the season goes on, but this group talks a lot about being close-knit, having that camaraderie, having this hunger to build off of from last season. And I want to see it because I feel like one of the biggest things that I've noticed with really any professional sports team is it's a lot of talk and the action doesn't always match. And I'm not saying they need to go out there and, 4 players have to have a 40 plus goal season or a 30 plus goal season. I want to see a few players, hit the upper 20s to mid 30s. I think that is a reasonable expectation. I will talk more about my expectations for certain players this week, but it is just, it feels like uncharted territory, to be entirely honest. And I know everyone's talking about how this is pretty much the same group as last year, and it is. But you do have some new players that are going to play or look to play a key role in this, and could one addition make a bigger difference than the other? And we're just not going to find that out until late in the season. I don't know. I'm getting far too ahead of myself here. And we're going to do that again in the next segment because I have some serious concerns about Jonathan Huberdeau's potential injury and patterns that this is unfortunately reflecting here on Locked On Flames. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel app because it adds excitement to my Sundays. Even if I don't care about the Patriots and the Steelers, I'm still going to hit that over because I like offense, and it makes games a lot more exciting. It's quick and it's easy, and the app is super user-friendly, super easy to use. Quick deposits and instant withdrawals. What more could you ask for? So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thanks, everyone, for making the show part of your day. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at JustBelmosto. So the other day when Huberdeau missed practice, I was a little concerned because, of course, it was the second day of training camp and we're already missing time due to maintenance. Don't really like that. That's not exactly instilling any confidence in me personally, but let's look at last season, okay? He had an incredible year. It was his best year in Calgary. 28 goals. It's like, I did not go into this season thinking Huberdeau was going to crack 20 goals. Quite frankly, probably didn't even think 15. But he almost doubled that. He hit 28, and that's impressive. However, I'm going to put a full stop on that real quick. I keep thinking back to his first season. Prior to his first season with the Flames, he had just won the Hart Trophy in Florida after having 115 points. 115-point season. Came in with an injury and had a down year. Historically, the worst drop-off in league history. So, to go from 115 to 55 points, no one has ever seen a 65-point deficit like that. And that was not a good start to Jonathan Huberdeau's tenure here in Calgary. And his comment, and it is very clearly a joke, him saying, reporter asked him, oh, why, what kept you out of practice, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I just woke up and I didn't feel like skating that day. Do you know what that reminded me of? I can't even lie. It reminded me of when Daryl Sutter was asked where Huberdeau was for part of the third period, and he said, oh, he was probably taking a dump. And in reality, Huberdeau was getting worked on at the medical table because of an injury. And I get it. People use humor to deflect and whatnot, and so be it. But like at the same time, you can see how they kind of mimic each other a little bit. He had a great season in Florida, came to Calgary with a little bit of an injury. We don't really know what it was. Had a great season last year and is coming in with some sort of lingering ailment. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is just, he pulled a hamstring on the golf course or slept funny, finally got a solid night's sleep since bringing the baby to Calgary. I don't know. I just hope that this isn't something incredibly detrimental to the team. But at the same time, I look at this and I'm like, fantastic. This is a perfect opportunity for Gridden to come in and steal the spotlight. Make it hard for Huska and Conroy to make that final cut decision. Same with Suniev. I really think either of those two could crack the NHL roster opening night. If there were, if there was a little more flexibility with openings. There's 6 more years of this Jonathan Huberdeau contract. That's a long time. And I feel like heading into this year, I was kind of, I don't want to say not counting down, but I wasn't counting Huberdeau out of having another good season. Might not be 28, 30 goal season. However, if he can just rack up the assists, especially with Matt Coronado likely scoring 30 goals this year, should be an okay cushion. But now I'm a little concerned. And I might be blowing this out of the water. But what are sports if you're not dramatic? Part of me wants him obviously to be okay, regardless. And then the other part of me is like, oh, well, like, what if we just kind of let Gridden play? What's the harm in that? Maybe, it's a long season. Let him recover, let him rest. Let him ease his way into this. Then what? I feel like there are so many possibilities and opportunities ahead for this young group. And I'm hopeful that it is a good season. If they aren't making the playoffs, I hope they are a bottom 10 team. And if they're making the playoffs, I hope you fought hard because this is a really good draft year. But that'll do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you are having a great start to your week. This is the start of hockey season, and I can't believe it's already here. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jess Belmosto. Check out my work on the Win Column at thewincolumn.ca, as well as offsidenews.co. I'm so happy and looking forward to bringing you coverage all season long.